Oh, Esau, man! Esau, this is what I want to see! A hearty welcome to the 12 tribes scattered abroad and to those grafted in. This is The Israelite in America. And guys, the title tells you, this is a heavy one. This is a heavy one. But if you are interested in this topic, you need to hear the whole matter out. I'm telling you, Israelite, Gentile, grafted in, wild branch, you need to listen to the topic all the way through. This is an incredibly important topic because everything that I'm talking about is about to get even more pertinent in our modern day, okay? So you need to understand, you nation of Israel, you bloodline and you grafted in, you need to understand what is actually going to happen, what's happening, and the precedents that have been set, okay? The law and order of the kingdom. And what am I talking about? If my slide will move. Okay, Gentile slavery in the Bible. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You read that right. That is what I'm talking about today. If this is something that interests you, then please subscribe to the channel and get ready to comment below. Keep your comments respectful. If there's a bunch of cursing and craziness, you will be deleted. All right, guys. This took me a bit. Support the channel. I've linked the Cash App below, $ Israelite in America. I'll link it, like I said, so you can support the channel, support my work. I will probably 100% be breaking this up into parts, all right? And then I'll release it later as a large single standing video. Again, it is important that you hear the whole thing in its entirety to understand the fullness of what I'm presenting, okay? If people come in and watch only part of this video, part of this presentation, you are absolutely not going to get the full picture of what I'm saying, and thus you will have a skewed view of what I'm saying and, in fact, what the scriptures are saying, because we are going to go through scripture here, you guys. And I'm going to use mainly the Torah, okay? There are scriptures in the prophets that I will reference, but I'm mainly going to use the Torah because people like to... when the New Testament says something they don't like, they like to say, oh, it's fake. The New Testament is fake, right? So we're using the law to not only tell us how the law, did, but you'll see. We're going to use the law to tell us, to explain this thing to us. And then we're also going to use the law to explain certain future things. You'll see what I mean. Hold on. All right. So in order to understand this topic, we have to understand the different classes of Gentiles in Israel, okay? This is very important. This is the basis on which all of this is going to rest. This is the foundation. And I have never heard anyone dig into this and present anything on this. And this was bugging me for a while. So yeah, let's just get into it. There are in fact different classes of Gentiles. Yes, and you will see what I'm talking about. All right, so first up is the grafted in Gentile, okay? What is the grafted in Gentile? This class of Gentile is one that has fully joined themselves to the nation of Israel. They have left behind the ways of their former nation and become a part of Israel through faith in Messiah, but also by the observance of Torah, the laws and commandments. They do not replace Israel as some Christian doctrines teach, but rather they become an adopted child whose rank is behind the firstborn, which is bloodline Israel. They receive all the same basic rights as one homeborn, but because of their lack of blood, there are certain things that they cannot attain without the firstborn making a way for them. Land inheritance, for example, see Ezekiel 47, 21 through 23. Okay, and with that opening right there, if you're an Edomite Israelite, right? An Edomite Israelite, for those of you guys that don't know, is an Israelite who's obsessed with the white man, the Caucasian in the entirety, as all Caucasians, being Esau, and they can't see past that. There's nothing else that they can see other than Esau, man, Esau. They live, breathe, eat, drink, and sleep. Esau, Esau. So if you are an Edomite Israelite and that is your viewpoint, then you shouldn't even bother watching this whole video. Just putting that out there. Now moving on. Now we're going to give scripture references to what we just said, right here. We're going to give scripture because I'm not just going to speak and say my thoughts. We're using scripture. And I implore everyone who watches this presentation, everyone who watches this, go back and read these scriptures for yourselves. I'm not hiding them. They are not hidden. It is on you to listen and then go back and let me check what he's saying against scripture. Okay, but make sure you read all the scripture, not just the scriptures you want to pick and choose. Exodus 12 verses 48 through 49. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. Okay? Very clear. Anyone, and I'll just say because I've heard this doctrine a lot, anyone who wants to say that this stranger was somehow an Israelite, that's rubbish, okay? It's rubbish. There's no way they can prove it. All they want to say is, well, Israel was sometimes called a stranger in this part of the Bible, and they can't prove this, okay? And because there's nothing to prove. This is clearly a non-bloodline Israelite, okay? This is clearly some Hamite or some other Gentile person, all right? Just moving that out of the way. Leviticus 19, 33 through 34. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you, listen, shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. Why? For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yahuwah, your God. Very clear, very... now, and this is something that Edomite Israelites have, they can't accept, so they just have to change these scriptures, right? They can't accept it because it goes against their ideology of the mad Esau doctrine, so they just have to change it or throw out these scriptures altogether. Leviticus 25, verse 35. And if thy brother be waxen poor, and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. And we're going to talk about this section a little bit more, okay? Everything in its proper place. Numbers 15, 14 through 15. And if a stranger sojourn with you, or whosoever be among you in your generations, and will offer an offering, listen, offer an offering, okay, of a sweet savor unto Yahuwah, as ye do, so he shall do. One ordinance shall be both for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you, an ordinance forever in your generations. As ye are, so shall the stranger be before Yahuwah. As ye are, so shall the stranger be before Yahuwah. What does this mean? It means the grafted in, they have the same, I view them before Yahuwah, it says here, before Yahuwah, as you are, I view them as such. Okay? Now, there's some subtle intricacies to that, right? Well, again, a stranger cannot be a priest, obviously, just like other tribes can't be priests, right? And a stranger, they're even a grafted in stranger, there are certain restrictions, and we'll touch on those, okay? But understand, this oh, they're all servants, they're all slaves. That's not what you think. Let's move on. As far as Yahuwah is concerned, a stranger in the Old Testament that attached themselves to Israel through belief in him and who kept his laws was part of the nation, okay? Because remember, in the Old Testament, Yeshua was not here yet, okay? Keeping the law as grafted in Gentiles was not a new thing that came into being in the New Testament, but a requirement since the law was given. We just read them. Listen, the stranger that attaches themselves to you, when they want to make an offering, they need to do it just like you guys do it. They follow the same protocol for making offerings, okay? Okay? An important thing to note is that the grafted in Gentile in Scripture is either dwelling in the land with Israel or else is moving towards doing so. And I find this is an important little detail that's often overlooked. When we talk about strangers that get grafted into the nation, if you notice, they are with Israel. They're not separate in some other land, right? They are with Israel. They have, so whatever land they were from, they've left those lands, and they are with Israel in Israel's land, which is what you do when you become become one nation, right? You don't, well, I'm one with you guys, but I'm over here in my homeland. Either you are part of the nation or you are not. Okay? And this must be understood. All right. Next, we have the traveler / merchant Gentile, as I like to call them. Okay? This class of Gentile are those who pass through Israel for a period of time, usually for such reasons as trade or greener pastures following droughts or other scarcities in their own lands. Okay? Well, don't worry, more will be explained. They are not a part of Israel, okay? This is important. They are not a part of Israel, but a distinct, separate group of people who are allowed to dwell and traffic in the land. Though they are not under the whole law, they are required to observe certain commandments during their time in the land, such as the Sabbath. However, they do not hold the same rights as the grafted in Gentile, like land inheritance, for example. Okay, so, these merchant Gentiles, and that's what I would call them, these merchant / traveler Gentiles that would be passing through, no, they weren't going to be bringing offerings and whatnot. That's not what they were going to be doing. In fact, they wouldn't be allowed to. But how are they going to trade with you, and you're not trading on Sabbath, right? How are they going to trade with another with an Israelite, and that Israelite, it doesn't do business on Sabbath, right? That Israelite has a holy, maybe a holy convocation of some kind to observe, maybe a feast day or whatnot. These Gentiles would not be observing that, but they would, by virtue of being in Israel's land, have to observe something like the Sabbath, right? They wouldn't bring pork to gatherings, right? If they were selling in the market, they wouldn't be selling pork or catfish, stuff like that. So there would be certain laws of the Torah that they would abide by, right? By just common sense, as it were. But they were not part of Israel. They were separate entities distinct from the nation. Okay? How do I know this? Leviticus 19:10. And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am Yahuwah your God. Okay? Now, this one specifically isn't only for the stranger that is traveling stranger, right? This is also for the grafted in stranger, but this also applies to the stranger that is a traveling stranger. Why? Because they don't have inheritance here. They don't have land. The grafted in stranger could sojourn and have land within one of the tribes. The traveling stranger has no land, right? So if they're poor or something and they're a hired servant or something, they don't have they don't have land of their own, so they got to go do what Ruth was doing. Okay. And what was Ruth before she became part of the nation? Okay. Deuteronomy 14:21. My mouse. Okay, there we go. 14:21. Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it. Or thou mayest sell it unto an alien, for thou art an holy people unto Yahuwah thy God. Okay, and this is going to come up again. Because you're going to see something very interesting, right? But you don't eat that. You sell it to the stranger that's in your gates, the stranger that's there with you at the time. And no, this is not the same stranger as the grafted in stranger. Don't worry, I'm going to prove it. Don't worry, I see people's hackles raising already. Don't worry, I'm going to prove it. Deuteronomy 23, Deuteronomy 23, verse 20. Unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that Yahuwah thy God may bless thee in all that thou settest thine hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it. So, quick question. How are you going to lend if the as we read before, if the grafted in Gentile is as to you one homeborn, right? So he is as you are before Yahuwah, so is he. He is thy brother. How then are you going to lend to him on usury? You cannot lend to your brother on usury. How can you lend to him on usury if he is one of you? Do you see what I'm saying? Elsewise, that would be a contradiction of Torah, and we know that Torah does not contradict itself. So if you can lend to this stranger, right, this particular stranger on usury, which is interest, of course, right? The King James says usury, but it means interest and compounded interest. If you can do that for this stranger, then this stranger is obviously not part of the nation. This is only common sense. This is only common sense. This is only common sense. Let's move on. We're kind of going to circle back to a little bit of this. Don't worry. The above scriptures detail a distinct separation between Israel and these strangers. And while they are certainly not to be mistreated, see Deuteronomy 10, verse 19, they are in no wise held in the same regard according to the law. This group would not be permitted into gatherings on holy days, okay? They wouldn't be allowed on set-apart days because they are not set apart. They also would not be able to inherit or own land, and intermarriage with them would have been heavily frowned on. Now, obviously, they wouldn't be, of the 7 forbidden nations. But intermarriage with them would have been heavily frowned on, and rightfully so. Why would you marry these people and they're not keeping the laws, keeping the commandments? They're not assimilated into your nation. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Some like to say that the scriptures just mentioned apply to all strangers regardless, like with a broad brush. But this is incorrect, as we can see from the following. Leviticus 17:15. And every soul that eateth that which died of itself, listen, or that which was torn of beasts, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Then shall he be clean. Okay, cool. Wait a minute. Deuteronomy 14:21. Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it. Or thou mayest sell it unto an alien, for thou art an holy people unto Yahuwah thy God. These scriptures are not a contradiction of each other, but rather dealing with 2 different classes of strangers. One class is permitted to eat things that die of themselves without becoming unclean as a result. But the other class does become unclean because they are a part of the nation. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's not a contradiction. You sell it. The Deuteronomy says, hey, you can sell it to the stranger, right? The stranger, meaning the one that the one that's not part of your nation, but that's, staying through for a while or passing through for a while, lodging in for a while. They aren't part of the nation, but you might know them. You guys might be on friendly terms with them. They may even eat with you in your house. But they aren't part of the nation. No mention of them being unclean or anything of the sort, right? 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 Tell me. You guys tell me. Tell me. Whereas before in this other Leviticus here, this is Yahuwah talking, right? When you if you soul that eateth anything that dies of itself, or that which is torn of beasts, right? Whether it be of one of your own country or a stranger, he shall be unclean, right? Understand the reason why this, and this is going to sound harsh, but it is what it is. This is how this is viewed biblically. The reason why this other class of stranger does not become unclean was because they were already unclean. They were already just considered unclean as far as Israel is concerned, as far as the law is concerned. And it sounds harsh, but it is what it is. They are already considered unclean. They are not clean. They are not set apart. They be eating unclean things. They do unclean things. Okay? That's why they don't become unclean, because they are already unclean. In a state of uncleanness, just generally. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way. Further examples. Exodus, I got to come with more than one witness, you guys. Exodus 12:19. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, okay? For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Okay? Boom, 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 boom. Leviticus 17:10. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people. Question: how can a person who is not a part of the congregation be cut off from it? Come on. How can a person who is not a part of the congregation be cut off from it? Guys, anyone? How can a person who is not a part of a people be cut off from his people? Anyone? Laws like these further emphasize the separation between the grafted in stranger and the wild stranger. Okay? The wild stranger is not part of the nation, right? And the wild stranger might be eating blood. They're not going to be eating blood in front of you. They're not going to be eating blood in the market, in the congregation, but they might be eating blood. They're going to be eating leavened bread during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? But these strangers, the grafted in strangers that are part of the nation, they are at risk of being cut off because these laws apply to them. They get cut off if they break these, right? They're separated from the congregation if they break these. Very simple, but it's something that we overlook, and it's easy to miss because there's so many laws to go through, and it's hard to kind of put all of them in to keep them all compartmentalized in your mind. It's difficult, but hey, they're right there. And again, go and look at these scriptures yourself. If you guys are enjoying this so far, hit that subscribe button. And again, I have linked my Cash App below. Your donations help. If YouTube doesn't suppress this, I can just see the comments rolling in. Your support is appreciated, you guys. Cash App is linked below.